Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to the next in our series of webcasts that we're bringing you from Travel Weekly as part of our roadmap to recovery from this COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm delighted this morning to be joined by Steve Heapy, who is, of course, the Chief Executive of Jet2.com and Jet2 Holidays. So good morning, Steve. How are you?
Hi, Lucy. All right, thank you. Not bad at all.
Thank you so much for sparing the time. I imagine the last 16 weeks have been very, very trying for you. But there was good news, isn't there? Because you have managed to restart, a portion of your program last week.
Yeah.
So how's that gone? Let's go straight to that first of all.
Very well. The feedback we've had from our airport partners, hotel partners, and of course our customers has been very good. We spent a lot of time getting things ready. We've made adjustments on the aircraft, at the airport. We've been liaising with our hotel partners, and of course we've got people supporting the customers to make sure they've got the best experience. And so far, it's gone very, very well. We started flying on the 15th of July. We've had a lot of flights since then. We've got our first big wave of arrivals back into the UK today. So we'll be speaking to the customers and seeing what their view was. And I think it's very important too, because the more people that come back that say, it's not that bad, everything's great in resort, then the better that will be for forward bookings for all the industry.
Yeah, it'll encourage other people to, if they are a bit anxious, that they'll think, okay, this is going to be a good experience.
Exactly, yeah.
So just tell me then, what have you put back on? Is it 7 airports? Is it in about 50 destinations? Give me an idea.
Yeah, we're flying to probably 45 destinations, which is most of them, and we're flying from 7 UK airports. That, of course, is our 6 English airports, our Northern Ireland, Belfast International base. Scotland, we've not started yet. We're starting from next Saturday. A week on Saturday.
Yeah.
Of course, the First Minister announced that we would be allowed to fly to Spain from then. Yeah, so we'll be starting operations a week on Saturday, and we're very happy that we're back on track. We just need Portugal now for the whole of the UK, and once we can fly to Portugal and Madeira, then we're operating pretty much at full speed.
Brilliant. Okay, so just in percentage terms, because I mean, of the total program that you would normally be running in a summer, what have you got up and running, and what do you think it will get to by the end of the summer?
At the moment, we're running at about 55 to 60% of capacity, and we will probably get up to 65%. We started with pretty much a full program. The only thing that we're missing is Portugal and Madeira. So that's 55% in our English bases. Once we start up in Scotland, then obviously that'll be more routes that we fly in. But
that's pretty good, Steve. I mean, at one point, did you think were there times where you weren't sure you'd get anything away this summer?
Yeah, it's been massive uncertainty since March, really, and the business has been very much in administration mode. That's cancelling, rebooking, amending holidays since February, because we had the sandstorms in the Canaries, then we had the quarantine in Tenerife, and then we've had the lockdown and the cancellations. So it's been very uncertain, and of course the uncertainty continues. We could have local lockdowns. We've had one in Leicester, Bradford apparently could be next, and we could have whole countries locked down. And I think the governments next time will react a lot quicker. If there's any sign of any outbreak somewhere, the governments could just do an immediate lockdown. So we could be in and out of this for some time. So we're by no means out of the woods as an industry. There's a long way to go, and there's still a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah. Well, just while we're talking about the government, I mean, what was your view when they introduced the 14-day quarantine in June? And lots of people were saying it should have been much earlier, absolutely pointless by June. And obviously people were very angry because they thought it did really impact, our industry's ability to get back up and running. What were your thoughts?
Like most of the industry and probably a good proportion of the country, I was a bit confused when it was brought in, because it was done 10 weeks later than many other European countries. And you can understand why other European countries did it so early because they wanted to stop, people coming in potentially spreading the disease. In the 10 weeks period between other countries putting it in place and the UK government put it in place, we're letting 10,000 people a day into the country, completely unchecked. So, the words stable door and bolting horse spring to mind. I think it was probably more of a political decision than one based on scientific evidence, but it just felt like it was too late. I had no trouble with the concept of that if it was done 10, 12 weeks ago, but not 10 weeks after everyone else.
And because it did actually, change your plans, because at one point you were going to, you'd announced a restart date and then you had to push it back, didn't you?
Yeah, we had one date and we felt pretty confident we'd start flying. And then obviously things dragged on and we thought we had no chance. So I know the approach of some companies was perhaps to change the date back by 1 week every week, but we didn't think that was very helpful for customers and travel agents, because if you're a travel agent and the date gets put back a week at a time for 10 weeks, then potentially you're going to get 10 phone calls off a customer asking for information. So we tried to make life a bit easier and said, okay, well, it's going to take us a bit of time to get going. There's no sign of things changing at the moment. Let's put a line in the sand and go for this date. And that's what we did. So we wanted to try and make life a bit easier for customers and travel agents and cut down the amount of correspondence and phone calls that we all have to take.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to come on to how you've, handled, things with your customers and your travel agent partners in a bit. But just before we move on from the government, I mean, you said we're definitely not out of the woods yet.
Yeah.
What's your view on the overall support from the government for the outbound travel industry? Do you think it's been good? Do you think it's been enough? And if not, what more would you like to see?
I think generally the government has responded pretty much as well as it could. I mean, this is absolutely unprecedented times, and some of the things they've done, again, have been unprecedented, and they've had to make some big decisions very quickly. For example, the furlough scheme. And, when you're running a government, you've got some massive decisions to make. You've got some big departments all fighting each other: health, home office, foreign office. You've got the travel sector and lots of other people, and they're all fighting their own agendas. When they make big decisions, I think it sometimes takes a bit of time to put the detail behind that, and that's been the frustrating thing, the time lapse between a big decision being made and then the detail coming out. The detail often doesn't reflect what the expectations was when the big decision was made. I would have thought they could have acted quicker. Certainly the refund credit note issue was one that could have been done a lot quicker. Other countries have done similar things, and that took a long time. And I know that that's been a lifeline to many travel agents, and it would have been good to see that happen a lot sooner.
Yeah, but okay. Well, let's just pick up on that point about the refund credit notes, because you were very quick out of the blocks, with a refund credit note option for your customers. I know you slightly changed it and nuanced it for the first few weeks, but you seemed. I mean, I spoke to your sales director, and he was right at the start of this, really, like literally first or second week, and you were giving these out, and he was absolutely sure that they were protected. So how were you so sure when the government were not, prepared to confirm that? And how could you be so sure? Because it obviously really helps your reputation in terms of how you handle this situation, because you were, you have been sort of praised for how you've handled it, but how were you so sure?
Well, we spoke to ABTA, the CAA, the government. We spoke to our legal people to see whether they thought that these were something that we could do. The reason we did it was not necessarily to retain the cash in the business, because we pretty much internally separate customers' cash from our own. So we could refund all customers' cash and still have our own cash in the bank. We did it to retain the bookings, because if you give, in these circumstances, customers a reason to cancel the holiday, i.e. uncertainty, then there's a very good chance they will do. So we wanted to keep hold, and we wanted our travel agent partners to keep hold of the bookings. And this seemed like a good way to do it. And Alan Cross, from the start, was working on this, and he was convinced that they were right. We spoke to various bodies, as I said. We got some positive noise from those, so we carried on with them. As things were firmed up as we went along, we changed the wording a little bit, so we were absolutely compliant. And the government's finally come on board and agreed that these are acceptable. And I think it's been a lifeline to many travel agents. I know Alan had a lot of travel agents on the phone very early on, thanking him for doing this and saying it was an absolute lifeline for them.
Okay, all right. And then, you know, I touched on it there, but a lot of consumer bodies, you know, consumer champions have been bringing out lists of, you know, how travel companies have behaved in this whole situation. And you've been, you know, near the top of those lists, and you have been praised. And you mentioned agents, and we've also heard some great things from agents in terms of how they think you've supported them. So, you know, how have you managed to handle this situation so well? Because it, you know, you talk about being unprecedented. The scale has been phenomenal in terms of the number of cancellations and the admin. So, you know, did you just not furlough as many people, or, you know, how have you managed to operate so much more, let's say, efficiently than others?
Well, we were very careful not to furlough lots of customer-facing staff that would be dealing with cancellations, amendments, and queries, etc. We had a fully staffed call centre from the start, because our call centre is home working, so we didn't have them all, you know, stuck in a building, and they were working from home and able to provide usual service. We also drafted in 130 staff from other areas, trainee pilots, HR, product, all areas of the business volunteered some colleagues to help us out and to help answer the phones for our travel agent partners. And whilst the queries may not have been resolved at the time, we had people taking messages, and then the queries were resolved, and we got back to our travel agent partners and customers. And as always, we try to give the best customer experience possible. I think there's been some horror stories in some of these surveys about customers not just being queries not being answered and taking ages to get back to them. You know, if you win a customer, it costs money. It costs marketing money to win a customer, and I think it's just stupid to let that customer go because you've not give them a great experience. And the holiday experience for us doesn't start when someone steps on a plane. It starts when they pick up the phone or visits the website. So we didn't see any reason at all why we should give a lower standard of service in times like this than we normally do.
Yeah. So you basically made sure you had the resource there to service your customers and your agents. I mean, given that, you know, you've handled it, you know, pretty well, are you disappointed then that others haven't, and have perhaps given the whole travel industry a bit of a bad name and sort of damaged its reputation? Or conversely to that, does it actually give you a competitive edge that, you know, you have displayed good customer service?
Both. I think, yes, the reputation of the travel industry has been damaged in some areas by the actions of some companies that have just not prioritised customer service at all. Customers and travel agents have been left hanging on, waiting for people to get back for them, working with no information. And of course, if a tour operator gives a poor service to the travel agent, it's the poor travel agent that's got to deal with the irate customer. And, you know, we don't want that. We want to make people's life easy. That's one of the benefits of a package holiday, that we take all the strain. And you can't suddenly abandon that when you go through times like this and say, well, you know, it's unprecedented times. Of course it is, but you've got to do your best. And that's what we did. But I think it will give us a competitive edge, because we're already receiving bookings from customers that are brand new to us. We've not seen them before, and I think they've been attracted to us by the surveys that have been in Which or Money Saving Expert, or, you know, wherever else. And I don't think it's done us any harm at all. So if you provide good service, customers will come back, but you'll also win new customers, and that seems to be what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned there, Steve, just a little bit ago, saying that you kind of ring fence customer money away from your own cash. And that's obviously quite important, and we know that that isn't what every company has done. That's not the model they've been working on, and so that has been part of the problem. So, with that in mind, do you think that the whole sort of system of the way the travel industry, needs to operate, do you think it needs to change going forward? I know it can't be an immediate thing, but do you think this whole crisis has really shown up where there are some real problems?
I think it's inevitable that there will be an overhaul of the protection regime, an alternative to the atoll scheme. I mean, the CIA have talked about that already and done various discussion papers, and I think change will happen. What that will look like, I don't know, whether they just put a flat fee up or whether they do a scheme where the customer's money's ring-fenced till departure. Either would work. There are pros and cons of either, but at the end of the day, I think it's important that customers are protected and they feel protected, because the last thing this industry needs is another disaster that ruins the perception of how we deal with customers. I think customers have got to have confidence when they're dealing with companies, because if they don't, it's not going to do us any harm, any good at all. So I would support change, and we're talking to the CIA and other organisations as to what that might look like, and we will be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of times you've mentioned how you've been, closely, involved and talking to, I guess, government officials, etc. So, what has your lobbying role been in all of this, Steve? I mean, are you kind of right there at the table, but you just don't shout about it, we're just not aware of it, but are you right in there?
Yeah, I mean, we speak regularly to authorities, up to CIA, members of the government, and the opposition. So we speak to a lot of MPs. I've had conversations with Grant Shapps, Kelly Tolhurst, Hull's calls every week, and we do a lot of lobbying behind the scenes, because sometimes I think people in positions of power don't like lobbying whereby everything's put in the press afterwards. They would prefer the quiet behind the scenes lobbying, and that's what we tend to do. We don't publicise every conversation we have with an MP or a minister, etc., because there's not always the need to. We're not glory hunting. We're not going to show that, look how much we're talking to people. We just sort of get on with it, and hopefully we can influence from behind.
Yeah, but do you think that the government gets the outbound travel industry? I mean, you mentioned there's so many departments. It can be transport or business or foreign office. I mean, there's so many different areas that you have to try and lobby. That's part of the problem. And then the other problem people say is that our industry, in terms of our lobbying effort, is quite fragmented. We're not sort of very cohesive in our approach. So do you think that we have got our message through? Do you think this has shown the value of travel to the economy?
I think certainly the Ministry of Transport understands the importance of the outbound travel agency, but certainly during this crisis, it's been fighting battles with the Home Office, the Foreign Office, the Department of Health. There's been lots of other departments that are involved with their own priorities, so it's been very difficult to get things done specifically for the travel agent that will for the travel industry that will benefit the travel industry. I think that in the future, the government may take more notice, because this is a huge sector. I think they've come to realise over the last few weeks that the outbound travel industry is a massive sector responsible for employing, tens, hundreds of thousands of people, and it generates a lot of income. I mean, they announced the VAT cut a couple of weeks ago, but of course that will benefit mainly the incoming travel industry.
Yeah,
I think that's probably prioritised over the outbound travel industry, but it would be good to see some more measures taking place for the outbound travel industry. We're a massive employer, a massive contributor to GDP. And of course, in the case of airlines, we invest billions of pounds to buy these aircraft and operate them. And these things are long-term decisions. They've got lifespans of 20, 25 years. We've got to make long-term decisions. And to do those, you need certainty.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioned long term there, and I wanted to come on to that. I mean, there's lots of things I want to come back to, but just in terms of your position, you've managed to get your 300 million government funding, but we know also from your results that you've taken 100 million pound hit from this. I mean, so are you now well set for the future, or will you have more restructuring to do? Because obviously you've announced redundancies and things as well. So as Jet2, as the company, where how are you set for the future? What is your outlook? What do you think will happen in terms of the demand and the industry coming back?
Yeah, well, I think we're well capitalized. We've got cash in the bank, and we will be able to weather storms that come in our way in the future. Of course, the big question is, when do the storms happen and how severe will they be? If we have another lockdown for 3-4 months in the future, then obviously that will impact all companies, but we are well placed to weather any more storms, future lockdowns, etc. So we've put a lot of work into strengthening the company. We already had a very robust balance sheet. As you said, we're able to take advantage of the government's £300 million CCFF scheme. We did a placing to the stock market that raised money, and we sold our subsidiary Fowler Welch. And that has raised cash, which, we're not splurging on share buybacks. We're not spending it on things. It's going to go in the bank, and it's going to make sure that we're able to weather any storms that hit us in the future. We have downsized. We'll be operating less aircraft in summer 21 than we'd anticipated for summer 20. We'll have close to 20 less aircraft. So there is a requirement unfortunately, for less people to operate that programme. But if things settle down, I would hope that one day in the future we'll be back in growth mode. But I think at the moment we've got to be very, very careful. We've got to be very cautious about the decisions we make, because we could be in 2 weeks' time in lockdown again. There could be a second spike in winter. There could be countries that are off limits next year. There could be social distancing that's put in place on aircraft, which effectively would drop our load factor to 50, 66%. So I think this has highlighted that things can be very severe, have massive consequences. And I think the whole industry needs to put more time and effort into making themselves more financially robust to be able to handle these storms. We can't be in the situation where 3 days of sunshine and companies are struggling. We've got to build long-term businesses that can handle this. Yeah. I've been in travel for quite a long time, and there's been it looks like it.
Don't admit it. Don't admit it.
There's been lots of things that have massively impacted demand over the last 20 years. Gulf War I, Gulf War II, Afghanistan, 9/11, 7/7, volcano, financial crash, loads of things, and they've all massively impacted demand. And I say at every conference we have, it's not a matter of if you hit a bump in the road, it's when and how big it's going to be. And have we got over this bump yet? I hope so, but the one thing's for sure, there will be more bumps in the road. We just don't know how far ahead they are and how big they'll be. So I think we, as an industry, we've got to put more effort into making sure our businesses are robust and that can stand up to shocks that come our way.
Yeah, absolutely. So prudent for 2021, you say 20 fewer aircraft. What does that do to the size of your program? Just in, it will be reduced by how much?
The capacity we should have operated in summer 20 compared to summer 21, it'll be about 20% less capacity.
Okay.
So we're just tightening it up a bit, but there's still lots and lots of flights. There's still 40 million seats. So it's a sensible contraction.
Your aircraft, you've got aircraft on order, so can you just put them on hold, or what happens with that?
Yeah, we've taken all our aircraft that were on order. We've got no more in the pipeline, so we'll be standing still for a while, and then when the future looks slightly more predictable, then we'll have an eye on growth again, I'm sure.
And
But
I know
for the
you haven't got
moment,
a crystal ball, but I mean, when do you, I mean, some people are saying maybe 2023, 24, they might, we might be starting to see growth again. Are you as sort of pessimistic as that, or do you think it might be sooner?
um, it could be. I mean, it all depends on how the next few months go. I mean, it's easy. I could just give you a date, 2023, but there's no science behind that. I
No.
think 2021 has got to be a year of caution, and it's got to be a year of companies strengthening their balance sheets, strengthening their resilience. It could be a good year because capacity will be down. We're down on capacity. I know other airlines are as well. So if demand gets back to anywhere near the levels we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years, we could see supply and demand out of equilibrium, and supply not being enough to satisfy demand. And obviously the fundamental law of economics dictates that prices go up.
Yeah.
So it could be a very good time for us, but equally it could be quite difficult.
Yeah.
So I don't try and predict the future. All we can do is just try and make ourselves as future-proof as possible, as to whatever that will throw at you.
Yeah, absolutely. And just on pricing there, Steve, what have you had to do for prices at the moment to try and encourage people to go away this summer? Has that changed massively? Have you had to offer real deals or not really?
I mean, there are some deals in place. We've got some flights that obviously aren't loaded as well as they could be, but with some people, I'm not sure very low prices are going to make a difference, because some people just don't want to go away. Either they haven't got the holidays, perhaps they've been furloughed, or they're on short hours,
Yeah.
0 hours contracts, they haven't got the money, or some people might be cautious about going away. We're doing some work at the moment looking at our bookings and inquiries to try and understand the demographics. Are older people less likely to go away because they feel they're more susceptible? People with pre-existing medical conditions, how families being affected? By knocking 20 quid off a flight, 50, 100 quid off a holiday, is it going to tempt someone that's worrying about flying? Probably not. So I don't think there's much point in starting a vicious price war. It's not going to help anyone particularly. So I think we've got to try and understand what type of people want to book with us and provide them with the best service they can, rather than just dropping prices everywhere, because you might be dropping prices for no increase in volume, which means you've got no benefit. You've just lost loads of money.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Now, just before we move on from the future, I mean, obviously you've talked about fewer aircraft and a slight contraction in the size of your program, but your parent company, Philip Meeson, is quoted as saying, despite the uncertainties, our business model remains unchanged. So, there will be changes clearly. I mean, as you said, just the size of the program for next year. But will there be any other changes will you still fly from all the bases that you've got? Will you use the same hotel partners, or is that sort of up for debate? Have some been better at sort of moving to the new health and safety protocols than others? What will anything else change in terms of your sort of business model?
No, I mean, what Philip said is absolutely right. Our business model does remain unchanged. The size of that model will change. It'll be slightly smaller, but our business model is to put every ounce of effort into providing our customers with the best experience possible. That's when they ring the call centre, when we deal with travel agents, when they go on board in resort, we want to give them the best experience possible. We are we don't consider ourselves a logistics company. We're not an airline or a tour operator. We are a leisure travel company that is absolutely focused on giving customers the best experience, and in that sense, the business model is unchanged. Every ounce of our effort will go into providing our customers with the best experience. That will not change, and it never will change. That's what we're here to do. Yes, we'll be slightly smaller. Yes, we might have a few less hotel partners. We might change some of our hotel partners as other hotels become available. But the basic DNA flowing through our veins remains unchanged. We are there to provide the best experience possible to our customers.
Yeah, and I know that extends to, when you say customers, you view your travel agent partners as customers as well, don't you? And let's talk now about them. I mean, the mix of trade business as a proportion of your total sales was already going up. I think it jumped 4 percentage points and is now at 28%. I remember being at a conference with you before, and it was a little bit less than that. So it's obviously great news for the trade. Do you think that this situation might make travel agents even more important in terms of people seeking that sort of expert advice and that sort of reassurance when they're booking their holidays?
Yeah, I mean, travel agents are very important. There's still a lot of people that rely on the service that travel agent provides. And I mean, we are still worried about the high street and what's happening there, because they are very quiet at the moment. And will they ever get back to normal? Who knows? And I think we've got to work with the government and the authorities and our travel agent partners to try and get people back on the high street. Now, one thing we'll be doing in the next 3 months will be to implement our independent travel agent finder on our direct website. So if someone puts their postcode in, we will provide a list of the independent travel agents that are near them. So we're not trying to, separate direct from trade. We're a leisure travel company distributing through various channels. We will bring the independent travel agents to our customers. And, people say, what do you want the travel agent percentage to be? We don't have a target. We want as many bookings as we can, and we want them through independent travel agents. We're not out to reduce that percentage. They play a very important part. But travel agents may have to do different things and change the model slightly, because the worst thing, in my opinion, an independent travel agent can do is sit there and wait for people to come back. We've all got to be proactive. We're going to do our bit and put our independent travel agent finder on the website. But, local councils should suspend some of their rules and maybe have more al fresco activities in town centres. So people can be brought out of the shops onto the pavement. Travel agents may have to go and find the business, go and hand leaflets out, go and work up your own marketing database, maybe use Zoom, maybe do house visits, etc. We've all got to change the way we operate a bit, and we cannot just expect people to come back to the high street. We have to work hard at that. People for the last few months, when they're speaking to a travel agent, have done it over the phone or over social media. And that's a change for them, because that's all they've been able to do. We have to get them back, and we've got to highlight the advantage of speaking face to face with a travel agent. So we've all got to work hard to do that and to get people back on the high street. As I said, we'll have our independent travel agent finder.
Sorry, Steve, is that something you were always going to be introducing, or is that an initiative that you've come up with as a result of COVID-19 and wanting to help the travel trade more?
No, to be honest, you've got me on that one, Lucy. We have mentioned that, I think, at the last 2 conferences that we would do that. And
just about to put it. Okay, but
you've got a very good memory. Yeah, I mean, no, fair dues. We did say we would do it, and we've had other priorities, and we've had things to do, and we've been trying to develop new tools for agents and customers. And it's one thing that we didn't do, but I think now is the time to do it. We've put some resource aside, and we will work on that, and we'll get it in. I think it's right. It's a great relationship we've got with our independent travel agent partners. If we can do our bit to help them and to get more business on the high street, then that's what we'll do. And we'll do what we can to work with them to get people back to them. We're also shortly will be starting our TV adverts again.
Okay.
And of course, our TV adverts have the travel agents mentioned on there. We say, book on the website, book on the phone, or visit your local independent travel agent. So again, we don't see that as just pushing direct business. We are pushing people to the travel agents. So we're doing what we can.
Yeah, I mean, and that's going to be a real positive sign, isn't it? That you're starting to market again, I guess. And you obviously think that this is the right time now to re-engage with consumers and via agents in that way.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing a bit of testing to see what the demand is, because a lot of people may still be nervous. They might be looking at what's going to happen with a lockdown and whether they think they can go away. So we're doing some testing at the moment, seeing if there seems to be a market there. And if there is, we'll start doing marketing again and try and get customers for ourselves and the travel agents. It's a case of test at the moment, and we'll see.
Well, we'd be very interested to hear, you talked about that, and also the research you're doing around demographics and, whether older people are more reluctant, etc. I think that'd be fascinating to find out. So we'll look forward to maybe covering that for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Steve, I'm conscious of your time, but I just wanted to go back right to the start. We talked about the restart of your operations, and you started to touch on the changes that you'd put in place. So just while we're talking about getting people back on holiday and getting agents selling again, just give us a flavour. I don't know if you've been out to resort yet yourself, and you can give us any, or perhaps you could just give us the feedback from your reps out there. What changes have you made on that sort of the journey, whether it's at the airport, on the aircraft, or in resort, just so people know what a Jet2 holiday would be like?
Yeah, thank you. Well, at the airport, we've got obviously social distancing in place. People have to wear masks as per the government advice. We have staff to look after our customers. They scan their own boarding passes, so the interaction is lessened. On board our aircraft, customers have to wear masks, but on an aircraft, the air conditioning system is very effective. It recycles the air on board every 3 minutes, and the air is recycled through HEPA filters, which of course are the medical grade filters that are used in medical institutions. So the air on an aircraft is very clean. And we have deep cleaning on the aircraft every night. All surfaces are wiped down with disinfectant. We have fogging on the aircraft every 10 days. Some man or lady walks down in a suit with a spray thing, whatever it's called, and sprays.
You were doing so well with your technical terms, and now you've gone for a spray thing. Love it.
And that lasts for 10 days. And we're doing what we can to make the experience as normal as possible under the circumstances. So the air quality is good. Crew wear masks, customers wear masks, and we are doing pretty much a full food and drink service on board as well. I know some airlines have chosen to cut back, but it's something that we feel we should be providing on board. We want it to be as normal as possible. I mean, at the end of the day, customers going on holiday, you don't want it to feel not like a holiday. You want to start relaxing, and it's a little more difficult when you're wearing a mask, but we want to provide people with comfortable and familiar environment. In resort hotels, we've been working with those. The most important thing we've been doing is making sure our hotels are open. I find that's very important when you do to stay in it. And
kind of key. Well done.
Once we've confirmed that they're open, we're working with our hotels to see what procedures they've got in place. And to be fair, most of them are doing lots. They've got social distancing in place in reception, extra cleaning regimes, hand sanitizers, etc. Some hotels where they had serve yourself all inclusive buffets now have people serving them behind for understandable reasons.
These kind of reports that you've got to book your slot on your sun lounger, and you've got to book your time that you dip in the pool, and there's been streams around the pool area. Is that true, or is that largely not happening?
I think largely it's not happening because swimming pools are in the main outside, and there's obviously less customers at the hotels at the moment anyway. I know it's peak season, but none of them are full. So the amount of space around the hotels shouldn't be an awful lot different from normal space per person. So, I mean, there are some weird things in Benidorm. You have to book your sunbed on the beach and book your time, and they don't have litter bins. You have to keep your litter with you. That's had quite a lot of negative feedback from customers. So it depends on the resort really, but most hotels are doing what they can to make sure that the experience is normal.
And presumably you're giving that information through to your independent travel agents so that they can tell customers exactly what each resort or each country's got restrictions and things they've got in place, are you?
We are. I mean, we're giving advance information as much as we can to travel agents. We have a bit of an issue sometimes giving information to customers that are out in resort. That's sometimes difficult because I can understand this, but we don't always get the emergency contact number for the customers' mobile phone number. And I know this is quite a controversial and contentious issue, but some of our travel agent partners give that, and obviously we've given a commitment not to use that for marketing purposes. We never would. We'll write into contracts, do whatever we need to do. We wouldn't use that. But basically, if we don't have that number, well, there's three options, isn't there? Number one, not have the number and give the customer a substandard service because we can't contact them in resort to let them know what's happening. Two, we have the number and give them the service everyone else gets. Or three, travel agents operate a 24/7, 365-day support centre whereby we can provide information to the travel agents at 3 o'clock in the morning and they provide it to the customer at 3:05 in the morning.
But you suspect they don't want to do that?
Well, I mean, a lot of these are small businesses and they don't have the ability to do that. I understand that, not everybody can do that. So if we can find a way to get over this, and I understand travel agents' reluctance to do this, then we can provide customers with real-time information. We've had a few challenges around transfers. Some hotels don't want either notice boards or information books in the hotels at the moment because people touch notice boards and people thumb through information books. Now that traditionally has been the primary mechanism for informing customers about transfer times. So if we don't have that, we've then got to ask the hotel to put letters under people's doors, but then you're reliant on the hotel doing it. Or we could do that, but if we do that, then we haven't got our customer service helpers helping customers with genuine queries. We've got them being postmen or women.
If you could just send a text or whatever to
yes,
the customer and just remind them of their transfer time, that would be much easier.
He would, yeah, and I understand travel agents' reluctance to give this, but as I've said, we've given a commitment not to use that for marketing purposes. Some do, some don't, but the ones where we don't have it, we're not able to give our usual standard of service because we can't contact the customer real time.
All right, so this is your plea to get travel agents to trust you and to get those numbers to you when they're making bookings. All right, Steve, just finally, because I know we better move on, but in terms of where demand is for now and future bookings, I know just give us an idea. Are people booking all of the destinations that you're offering, or are there some more popular than others, perhaps because they've been in the news, or where are you seeing the demand for?
Demand's pretty consistent across most of the destinations. Obviously, demand for Portugal and Madeira has dropped off because they're not open. That's obvious, really. But in terms of the others, it's pretty flat. Obviously, Cyprus is suffering a bit because they're demanding a PCR test on arrival, which is quite costly, and therefore we're not flying there for the moment. We're trying to resolve that with the Cypriot government. Demand it's okay, and it's building. I think there's a lot of reluctance for people to commit at the moment. And the next 2 weeks, in my opinion, will be key because we're going to get people coming back from holiday saying, what's it like? There'll be, stories in the press. There's been various press trips. People have gone abroad. They'll be writing about it. If people come back and give positive feedback, which I think they will because that's what we're getting from customers, then I think a lot of people say, actually, it's not that bad. Let's escape the drab, dreary, depressing, wet weather in the UK and go and get our slice of sunshine and get a bit of a tan. And if that happens, then hopefully demand will pick up a bit more. We need to see for winter because typically winter is the time when the slightly older generation goes away, the sun's less intense, things are a bit quieter, and we just need to see what the propensity for the older generation to book is. We need to monitor that carefully.
Is it not great so far? Is it not really flying off?
It's okay. I mean, booking volumes pretty much since March have been very low. They've started to go up now, and we're seeing, you know, very encouraging signs. But it's early days. As I said, we're running our demographic profiling to try and see if there's any trends emerging, and we'll get that over the next few days. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, the winter season in terms of bookings doesn't normally kick in for another 6 to 8 weeks, and it's then that we'll really find out whether this part of the market is willing to commit. Again, it depends on whether there's more lockdowns, a second spike, whether there's a vaccine. You know, there's 101 bits of information that will come out in the next few weeks that customers will be processing and using that in their decision making.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope that you do get that demand just continues to build, Steve. You know, it's fantastic to see you back in operation from last week, and you know, as you say, I hope you get to bring more destinations back on and get your program, you know, up to full strength in time. But for now, it's just been fantastic to speak to you about it all, and well done on the last 4 months. It must have been a nightmare.
Well, thank you. I mean, on behalf of all the team, everybody's worked incredibly hard, and you know, everybody's very happy to get back to providing customers with our industry-leading, award-winning holidays. And
you had to get it in there, didn't you?
Yeah, I guess so. No, I mean, seriously, we're very happy to get back doing to what we love doing, and you know, all our colleagues throughout the company have been fantastic, and you know, thank you to everyone.
All right. Well, thanks very much to Steve Heapy from Jet2 Holidays. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Lucy.